Paul is a great student, and he studies hard and gets straight A's. He knows all the formulas in math ranging from geometry all the way to calculus. Paul's parents are even ready to send him to an Ivy League school. On the other hand, you have Sam, who struggles in school and mostly gets all C's. Sam has a hard time sitting down and memorizing all the terms and formulas for all of his classes. Sam's parents think Sam will not become successful due to his grades. 10 years later, Sam is now the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, while Paul works a minimum wage job at one of the company's numerous warehouses. What happened? In the book The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel explains some of the reasons why the financial and investing world greatly differs from school and the studies learned in it. Allow me to provide some of the key takeaways from this book. The study of finance is something that differs greatly from other studies such as physics and math. For example, physics is guided by laws, so therefore it is not controversial. However, finance is different because it is guided by the emotions and the behaviors of people. For example, no matter the amount of open mindfulness or studying, you cannot recreate the power of fear and uncertainty. You can read about all the past financial events, such as recessions, but you cannot truly feel what the people felt back then. We all think we know how the world works, but we are so wrong. We have only experienced a tiny sliver of it from our point of view. Multiple economists say that their findings suggest that individual investors have different risk tolerance due to personal history. This clearly makes sense. If you really think about it, no one is crazy. Every decision is made by a person's unique experiences. Every decision made is based on an individual's experiences that made most sense at the moment of the decision. With that being said, you have to honestly forgive or try to at least understand the other person's situation. Let me digress. If someone had a bad outcome, you may simply blame it on a bad decision. But when judging yourself, a wild narrative can be created, which justifies your past decisions, which in turn created that bad outcome. Let me give you guys an example. When Mark Zuckerberg turned down Yahoo's $1 billion offer in 2006 to buy his company, he was considered a genius. People praise him and still will praise him for the decision he made. On the other hand, Yahoo received an insane amount of backlash because they turned down an offer from Microsoft to buy them. You can see the hypocrisy in this example. Managing risk and failure in finance is a key to succeeding. Your financial life should be arranged in a way so that you can keep playing until the odds fall in your favor, despite a bad investment or bad economic times. Getting money is one thing, but keeping it is another. One thing you should be scarce with is the calculation you make on the room for error. In reality, our futures are filled with many unknowns that no one can predict, such as COVID-19. But if you appreciate the room for error, by appreciating the room for error, you're hedging against the unknown future. A poem that was discussed in this book that really teaches a lesson goes like this. A wise old owl lived in an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Why aren't we all like that wise old bird? The reason why many people buy fancy clothes, nice cars, or nice jewelry is because they yearn for the respect and admiration of other people. However, by buying these things, they will not earn the respect that they desire from the people that they desire the respect from, if that makes sense. If not, replay it. And going off that, everything in life that will break will eventually break. So if 10 things rely on one sole thing on working, and that thing stops working, 10 catastrophes are near. A perfect example of this in the financial world is people's sole reliance on paycheck to paycheck. They use these paychecks to fund short-term spending without saving or investing. However, be careful. It is common in the financial and investing world to copy what other people are doing. This is a really bad way to go about it though. By nature, most people are pessimistic. It's literally in our biology to be pessimistic. However, that doesn't mean it's good to be pessimistic. Here's a quote from historian Deirdre McCloskey. For reasons that I've never understood, people like to hear that the world is going to hell, which is true. Like I just said, many people are pessimistic, which is really true because most people are pessimistic and don't care to change. Here's an example. If you tell someone that everything will be great and everything's good right now, they will likely shrug it off and will not care. However, if you tell them that things will be bad and right now is a disaster or they're in danger, they'll drop everything to listen to what you have to say. This makes sense though, like I stated earlier, because it's in our biology. It was programmed into us. Organisms that treat threats more urgent than opportunities actually have a better chance of surviving and reproducing. No matter what though, extremely good or extremely bad conditions in the economy will not stay forever. This is one of the iron laws of economics. However, it is very hard to forecast these markets. It is really hard to forecast these economic markets. for example, the stock market. It is so difficult because people are experiencing the market from that little sliver that they have experienced in life, not taking into account anyone else's experiences. And going off this, it's extremely easy to be biased once you've made an investment. For example, if you believe that a recession is coming and you sell all of your stocks, your view on the economy is suddenly going to be changed. Every little thing that happens will appear to you as doom has arrived, and that's due to the point of view that you have of the market right now. You're biased towards it. Here are some of the most important points from the book, is you should allow yourself to find humility when things are going right, and forgive yourself when things go bad. You should also be doing these things when judging others. Luck and risk are both very hard to identify. The second thing is you should be using your money to gain control over your time. If you don't have control of your time, then there's no point of even having wealth. Controlling your time is so powerful that it has a direct effect on your happiness. Also, if you do have control over your time, this will lead to more opportunities available for you. The third thing is you should be very humble and less flashy. I can guarantee no one or barely anyone cares about your possessions as much as you do. Although you think you might want more jewelry, cars, new house, new clothes, you actually just want respect and admiration from people. Instead of buying these things, learn to not care how other people perceive you. And finally, everything has a cost. Uncertainty and doubt are the common costs in the financial and investing world. However, they're often very worth the price, but you have to view them as a fee instead of an exchange. Now let me leave you with this final story. Back in the 80s, before the gap between the rich and the poor was as big as it is today, the majority of people lived similar lifestyles, so there was less competition. Once the internet came out, the lifestyles of a small portion of legitimately wealthy Americans began to influence the majority of Americans whose income was not rising. This led them to do stupid things with their money, because in the past they had similar lifestyles with these wealthy people, but now they could not afford it. They chose how they were perceived over being financially free, and that is how most people live today. Let me give you an example. Joe, an investment banker making $900,000 a year, buys a $4,000 square foot house with 2 Mercedes and sends 3 of his kids to Pepperdine. He can afford it. On the other hand, you have Peter, a big branch manager making $80,000 a year, but he sees Joe and feels a subconscious sense of entitlement to live a similar lifestyle because Peter's parents believed and instilled in him that Americans' lifestyles weren't that different even if they had different jobs with different salaries. Although his parents were right during their era, it is not the same in Peter's era. Peter lives in a different world, but his expectations haven't changed much from his parents, even if the facts have. Peter buys the big house and sends his 3 kids to college anyway. He does this because he wants to be perceived as rich, when in reality, he is drowning in debt and setting up his children's future for failure. Thank you for watching, and make sure you subscribe and check out my other YouTube videos on self-improvement and book reviews.